Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. In today's video I'm going to be doing a long awaited update on my London Marathon training. I have got a bit behind with these videos and I think I'm 3 weeks behind. I think the last update I did on my training was week 5. So I've got 3 weeks to catch up on. I'm going to try and get through them as quick as possible and not ramble too much. I'll just keep these sort of overviews short and sweet. We're literally going to get straight into it because otherwise I'll be here for a long time. I have a bunch of notes that I have written down. As always, I'll leave a screenshot. I can't remember which side it's going to be on, but it will be on either of these sides when I edit. So we'll get straight into week 6 of my training. So I will just bring up a overview of the actual runs that I had to do for week 6. So I had a 4-mile run, a 5-mile run, a 4-mile run and a 15-mile run. So for run 1 I did 4 miles in a pace of 12:54 and a time of 51 minutes and 39 seconds. So that was an on-plan run. I don't remember anything from that run. I don't have any sort of recap on Strava. So yeah, just happy to have ticked off one run. The next run that I did was another 4 miles. I did that in a pace of 13:17 and a time of 53 minutes and 1 second. So that was my other 4-mile run for that week. I didn't complete one of the runs for that week. I'm not quite sure why I didn't complete a run that week. So yeah, I missed the 5-mile run for that week. So we'll move on to my long run. So the long run scheduled was 15 miles. I did the 15 miles in a pace of 14:36 and a time of 3 hours and 36 minutes. I've just written a recap here. I have put that it was humid as hell. The heat has been ridiculous. First 8 miles went quite smoothly, but should have chosen a better route. The route that I chose, I went off-road for a bit of it, just for some, I guess, a different route, because I'm running a very similar route every time that I'm doing my long run and then just adding bits on. So I wanted to do something a bit different for that run and I really regretted it. I forgot how much of it was going to be uphill on the way back. So my legs were suffering. Like I said, from the first mile to about mile 8 I was fine because I was mostly downhill before I had the sort of turnaround point, but the sort of turnaround point sucks because it was mostly uphill. I think it had also rained that morning, and the fields and stuff that I'd run on, the mud was collecting on the bottom of my trainers. So on the way back, when I was doing mostly uphill, it was sort of draining my legs, having like heavy mud stuck to the bottom of my trainers. I remember the last 4 miles being horrendous, really. I feel like I walked more than I ran. I probably didn't, but it felt like that. And the last 2 miles or so, at least the last mile, I think I hobbled it. So yeah, I was finding that really mentally and physically tough. And I just remember finishing that run thinking, how on earth am I going to be able to like get in another 11 miles after that? If that was the way my legs felt after 15, like how on earth am I going to fit in another 11? I was just glad to have got the distance done, but yeah, everything is just really hard. So it's hard not to be disappointed when you sort of take walk breaks and stuff like that. I'm trying not to think about it too much and just remember and keep that mantra alive for finish lines and not finish times. So I have been better at it over the last couple of weeks, but at the time I was a bit upset about it. So that was it for week 6. I only did 3 runs, but at least I managed to do my long run. On week 7 I had planned a 2 5-mile runs, a 4-mile run and a 13-mile run. So this was like a drop in mileage for the long run to sort of recover your legs, I guess. Although I expected with like a recovery week to have like lower mileage during the week, because I have been feeling lately that my legs never feel recovered. My legs are always tired. So it would have been sort of nice to have lower mileage during the week, but yeah, that just wasn't the case. So yeah, I had two 5 mile runs, a 4 mile and a 13. So let's see what we actually did. So week 7, I only did 3 runs that week. Again, I have no sort of recollection of why I didn't get in a 4th run for that week. So run 1, I did 5 miles in a pace of 13:48 and a time of 1 hour and 9 minutes. My legs were tired and it was super hot. I think that the heat has been playing like a major factor in sort of my performance and my energy levels and things like that. I hate the heat and I really hate it for running, so I've really been suffering with that. It did rain about halfway through my run, which was quite refreshing, but other than that I just remember my legs being tired the whole time. So that was my 5 miles done. Run 2, I did 4 miles in a pace of 12:54 and a time of 51:43. Like I said, I had mentioned this in an Instagram post when I did my update for run 2, that I just felt like I got to a point in training where no amount of sleep was ever enough and no amount of sort of recovery time between runs was enough, and my legs were basically constantly tired. So I think that my legs are just constantly heavy every single time that I run, and I just don't feel like I've fully recovered any time that I do a run. So in that respect it is really tough. Then I had run 3, which was my long run. I had, as I said, had on the plan to do 13, however I only managed 11. So I did 11 miles in a pace of 14:24 and a time of 2 hours and 38 minutes. I remember this run because it was the day before I was going in for my general anaesthetic. I was quite nervous and anxious already in the lead up to having the general anaesthetic the next day, and I was on strict instructions not to have any sort of medication, supplements, things like that in the sort of lead up to the surgery for like the week. So I haven't been able to take any Corans, which was probably playing some sort of impact on my sort of performance for runs, and I wasn't able to take Imodium. So I think I already overthink things and get anxious about needing the toilet on my long runs anyway, so the stress of that probably didn't help. But around the sort of 10.5 mile mark I needed the toilet and I couldn't go anywhere. I was just around the streets near the house, so it ended up just being that I walked the rest of the way back to the house, and I didn't see the point in going back out because I was already knackered, so I just didn't see the point. And yeah, because of how I was feeling and how anxious and the rest of it, I just decided that I just end it at 11. It is disappointing when you don't sort of meet the mileage, but I still got 11 miles, so I should still be happy with that. And I don't think the extra 2 miles would have made any sort of difference. So that was week 7. So like I said, I missed one of the runs. I'm not entirely sure why. It may have been the heat, it may have been another reason, but I only did 3 runs that week. Then moving on to week 8, I feel like I've dropped the ball in terms of consistency with my training. I need to get back on that this week. This week will be week 9. But last week I only managed to fit in 2 runs. Obviously, because I was in for a general anaesthetic on Monday, I couldn't run on Monday. I wouldn't have run on Monday anyway because that would have been the day after my long run. But because I had a general anaesthetic, I was told not to exercise for 48 hours. So I couldn't run at least Monday, Tuesday. Then Wednesday it was really hot and I just couldn't be bothered. I was still feeling a bit under the weather from the general anaesthetic, so I can't remember what day I ran. It might have been Friday, which I did my first run on. So I'll just recap what runs were scheduled for week 8. So it was a 5 mile run, a 6 mile run, a 4 mile run, and then 16 miles, which would have been a PB in terms of long, like the distance that I've ran. I've never run more than 15 miles from the previous week on week 6. So this would have been another sort of long run PB. So week 8, run 1, I did 4 miles. So I did the shorter mileage out of the ones that I had available. In hindsight, I probably should have done a bit of a longer run for that run, but never mind. So I did 4 miles in a pace of 13:19 and a time of 53:26. It should have been it should have been 5, but ended up being 4 because I had to do a detour back to the house because I needed the toilet. Legs felt good up until the point where I obviously had to go back in the house, and there was no point in going back out for another mile, I don't think, when you've got that short of a distance left. That after the sort of scramble to get my shorts back on and all the rest of it, I'm probably just frustrated and can't be arsed, so I just ended at 4. I definitely could have gone further than the 4 miles. Like I said, I had enough in my legs. I could have probably done the 6. But yeah, as it were, I needed the toilet, which seems to be a regular occurrence lately. Then we'll move on to my last run for week 8, which was run 2, which was a long run on Sunday, so it is now Tuesday, so it was 2 days ago now. For that run, I went out with Philip for that run. He decided, well, he's had an injury himself, so he's been dealing with Achilles issues and an issue with his knee, so he decided to trial whether running at my speed compared to his speed would be any better for him for his long runs. It turns out it did work quite well, so I think he's going to end up coming with me for my long runs, which I think is better for me as well, because I'm not sort of on my own the whole long run, and I can have sort of a variety of routes, which I said I've been struggling with anyway, just running the same route every time for my long run. So I guess we'll get into the nitty gritty of my long run. We'll just recap what I did. So I had planned 16 miles, which should have been a PB distance. However, I only managed 11.5 before I stopped, and then I walked 2.5 back to the house. So it would have been about 14 miles in total on the legs. I did the 11.5 miles in a pace of 13:42 and a time of 2 hours and 32 minutes. I mean, when you consider that to the long runs that I've done before then, for example, the long run in week 7, I did that in a pace of 14:24, and the time that I did the 11 miles in for that one compared to, no, we'll go to the 15 mile, that will be a better example. So for the 15 miles, I did a pace of 14:36 and a time of 3 hours and 36. I was quite a bit faster. I've mentioned this before in my training updates, that I do run quite a bit faster with Philip. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's just because he's there for encouragement or whether he's running slightly faster than me, so I feel like I have to catch up. I just run slower on my own, so yeah, my pace was faster for that run. However, the run in general was a nightmare. I'm still trying to figure out my nutrition, if you will. Obviously, because I'm having GI issues, I guess I'll get that out of the way first. I'd gone to the toilet before I was going out for a run. I took my Imodium before I was going to go out, and I thought that'd be it and I'd be fine for the run. However, I had to stop at 4 miles, and then I think I had to stop at about 9-ish miles. So I had to stop an additional 2 times for the toilet while I was out for a run, which is obviously really demoralising. I don't really want to have to stop for the toilet, and it is really, really hard to get going again once you've stopped. Obviously, I am going to have to figure out the GI issues. I mentioned in my Pits and Peaks video that I was going to be trialling and erroring some things, cutting some things out of my diet to see whether that will make a difference. I have been gluten-free for the last 3 days, and I will continue that for like the next 3 weeks to see whether that makes any difference at all. Hopefully it does. If it doesn't, then I'm moving on to dairy and seeing how that works instead. But something that I am eating must be playing havoc with my runs, and I'm not sure what it is. I do eat a lot of pasta and bread and things like that. A lot of my snacks and things have wheat and stuff in them, so it is a potential that gluten could be the issue. So I guess we'll see how things go. I'm hoping to have a smoother run this week. But yeah, 2 toilet stops during the run, and then after my second toilet stop, both me and Philip just felt like we had no energy. and we sort of decided around 11 that we were going to stop after about 11 and a half. We got to McDonald's, which was 11 and a half, and I just felt like I was desperate for something other than the water that I was drinking. So far I have only been fueling on water, so I have my hydration pack. I've got 2 500ml bottles in that, and I fill that with water, so I have that during my long runs. And then the only other thing that I fuel on is jelly babies. Obviously, because I have a track record for needing the toilet and things like that, I know in the past, I haven't had issues in the past with regards to like GI issues on long runs. When I did like half marathons and stuff in the past, I've not really had too much of an issue. I do, however, have a sort of sensitivity to gels. I know that when I've trained doing half marathons in the past, it has took me quite a while to figure out what gels work for me. And obviously it's been quite a few years since I last did a half marathon, so I'm not sure what gels I used then. So I've just been trying to stay away from the gels and just use like a more natural food source, but obviously the jelly babies is just not enough. If I'm running out of energy at the 11-mile point, I need more energy in order to keep me going, so I need to figure out something else that I'm going to eat. I've had quite a few suggestions of sort of like natural foods to eat, like mini cheddars for the salt, to obviously replenish the salt that you're losing with sweat. I've had a couple of people mention salt sticks. Some people have recommended Tailwind. Obviously, if you're a runner, if you do marathons, please leave me suggestions on what you think that I should do in terms of that. Obviously, like I've said, my stomach doesn't agree with gels very much, so I need a sort of more natural slash, just something that's not going to affect my stomach too much. So yeah, I am in the midst of having a look online and doing some research. I have seen Kendall Mint, which they do gels for. A couple of people who've had like sensitive stomachs and things like that have said that they've got on really well with that, and they do like a bar version where you sort of snap off little cubes and you have them during your run, and they've got electrolytes in them, so I might try them out. I have the next 7 weeks until the marathon to sort of figure out my fueling and stuff like that. I still got plenty of time to sort of figure that out, so I'm going to buy a few things and just trial some sort of foods out during my long runs and see what works for me. So that is sort of what I'm going to have to keep you updated on, I guess. Other than that, I am happy with the runs that I've done, but as I've said, I have dropped the ball on consistency with my training, so I'm not too happy about that. I do want to make sure I get in my 4 runs a week. I just think that because I think the consistency has dropped off because my legs are so tired and I've just not been feeling going out for a run. I feel like it would benefit me more to take the extra rest. So I don't know whether it would be beneficial to drop down to 3 runs a week, I'm not sure. But for the time being, I'm going to keep it to 4 because that's what the plan says. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll see if I can pick up that consistency again. But yeah, I don't have anything else to really update on for this. I appreciate that it's been quite a long video because I've been recapping the last 3 weeks. I've just got a few things to figure out, but I'm sure I will figure it out in time for the marathon. If needs must, I'm going to have to just stop for the toilet on the race, which people have said, well, given the pace that I'm going to be doing the marathon in anyway, there shouldn't be as big queues as there would be if I was faster. So yeah, if needs be, I will have to stop and go to the toilet while I'm on the marathon, and then it'll just be sort of, I'm going to have to train my brain to just get on with getting back into running after I've stopped, because I think that's the toughest thing. As soon as I stop to walk or I stop to go to the toilet or something like that, it's very hard to keep going, so I'm going to have to sort of get past that mental barrier. Yeah, Other than that, I don't have much to update on and I don't want to keep you any longer, so I'm going to end the video here. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can always click the notification bell down below, you'll be notified of when my videos go live. Other than that, hope you're all staying safe and well. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend, whenever it is you're watching this, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye.